In India, empires have always been built by a militant minority caste whose base characteristic is being very good at organized violence. But it creates a huge disadvantage in that it limits the manpower of the Indian monarchs, who could never call upon the full manpower of their kingdoms in a war, like the British or the French could. Frankly, I'm surprised they even survived, even chalked impressive wins, seeing how much at a disadvantage they were. One such win is the Maratha Empire. Given what we know today, Marathas in the Battle of Panipat were hopelessly outnumbered and were weighed down by a huge number of civilians. There was no way they could have won the battle on their own. Afghans simply outmatched them in the battle. After the initial inertia of the elite Huzairiyat cavalry broke, the Marathas were at the back foot. So far, so for so for Marathas to win, we would have to look to other factors which could tip the scale in their favor. Could the Marathas have won the Battle of Panipat? Answer to this question is complicated and requires a further breaking down of the reasons in the first place because of which they lost. Afghans, basically having come from a foreign land, could count on a ready-made coalition of Rohillas. Khanate of Kalat outstayed the declining Mughal Empire against the Marathas. The failure of Marathi diplomats to break the Afghan coalition was astoundingly embarrassing, which had many fractures like both Oudh and Bengal Sultanate armies were primarily Hindus and detested the Afghans more, if not as much as Marathas. North India had two effective Hindu military castes at that time, Rajputs and Jats, who had armies ready. Even if one of them emerged at the back of the Afghan forces, the battle would have been over as soon as it started. In this timeline, for Marathas to win, the state of Udaipur allies with the state of Bharatpur after Peshwa enters into negotiation with them for alliance and assures them of no further taxes, famously known as Chauth, for military labor. Combined armies of the two states emerge on the plains of Panipat. Jats had excellent cavalry and artillery, while the Rajputs had excellent cavalry. After the battle is won, I see both states under the Maratha banner consolidating their own regions. Rajputana is consolidated under the state of Udaipur. Meanwhile, Bharatpur consolidates Agra, Haryana, and parts of eastern Punjab under it. Marathas were, at most points in their history, astute strategists. They would eventually realize that having small statelets is a problem that creates instability and breeds chaos. And history always indicates if people are to choose between order and chaos, people would always choose order, no matter who was providing it. To counter all the chaos in the region, they would eventually make both the states of Mewar and the Bharatpur state a regional overlord who is in turn incorporated into Marathi court. Best part for the Maratha Empire would be both Rajputs and Jats would compete for influence inside the Maratha Empire, thus balancing each other out. In this scenario, following the Maratha victory at the Third Battle of Panipat and the decision to attack Oudh and Bengal to avenge their betrayal, the Marathas launched a military campaign against these states. The Maratha Empire, aided by the Jats and Rajputs, is able to quickly defeat the forces of Oudh and Bengal and capture their territories. As the Maratha Empire expands, the declining Mughals become increasingly concerned about the threats posed by Marathas. In an effort to protect their own interests, the Mughals decide to take a more aggressive stance than in our timeline. The Mughal Emperor Shah Alam The second leads his own army against the Marathas, determined to defeat them and reassert Mughal control over the region. The Marathas, however, emerged victorious in this conflict, defeating the Mughal army and capturing the Mughal capital of Delhi. Shah Alam too is captured and dragged out of Delhi, his head put on a spike as a display of Maratha power and determination. Following their victory over Mughals, Marathas continue to expand their territory and assert their dominance over the region. They are able to forge military alliances with other regional powers. In this alternate scenario, it is possible that Marathas decide to move their capital from Pune to Kannauj as a part of their efforts to expand and consolidate their territory. Kannauj is a city in the north of Indian state of Uttar Pradesh that was a historical center of trade and culture. There could be a number of reasons why Marathas choose to move their capital to Kannauj. For example, Kannauj could be seen as a strategic location given its proximity to River Ganga and its central location within the Maratha Empire. The Marathas may also see Kannauj as a more suitable location for their capital given its cultural and historical significance. If Marathas decide to move their capital to Kannauj, they would likely face a number of challenges in doing so. They would need to establish the necessary infrastructure and support systems to sustain the city as a capital, including building new palaces, temples, and other public buildings. They would also need to ensure that they had the support of the local population and work to integrate Kannauj into the Maratha Empire. Ultimately, whether or not the Marathas choose to move their capital to Kannauj would depend on a variety of factors, including their strategic goals and resources available to them, and the political and social dynamics of the region. Expansion of Maratha territory. Maratha victory at Panipat could have led to a expansion of Maratha territory as Marathas would have been able to assert their dominance over the region and potentially conquer additional territories. This could have had significant implications for the balance of power in South Asia and the distribution of resources and wealth within the region. Strengthening of Maratha military power. Maratha victory at Panipat could have significantly enhanced the military and political power of the Maratha Empire. The Marathas could have been able to demonstrate their strength and capabilities on the battlefield, which could have given them more leverage in negotiations and diplomatic discussions with other regional powers. This could have allowed the Marathas to expand their influence and shape the course of South Asian history. Doji Boja famine is another such issue which many historians choose to ignore basically. The Doji Borja famine, this famine virtually wiped out the Maratha demographic strength, which was very minor to begin with, too. People don't realize that before industrialization, how helpless we were. Average woman gave birth to 10-12 children, of whom only 2 or 3 survived. Doji Borja famine, there was virtually no way Marathas could have won. But in this alternate history scenario, it is possible that the Doji Borgia famine, which occurred in the late 18th century and affected much of Maratha Empire, could have been relatively limited impact. There could be a few potential reasons. Strong economy. If Marathas emerged victorious at the Third Battle of Panipat, they would have been able to expand and consolidate their territory. It is possible that their economy could have been strong enough to withstand the effects of the famine. The Marathas could also have access to a range of resources, including agricultural land, trade routes, and other sources of wealth, which would have helped them weather the famine and maintain their economic stability. The Marathas could have had effective disaster response strategies and measures in place to mitigate the impact of famine. This has been done by many Indian empires throughout the time. For example, they could have they could have taken from the Gangetic plains, which were virtually not affected by these famines, and had a very good surplus. If Maratha Empire was politically stable, it could have been better equipped to handle the challenges posed by the future. The Marathas would have had strong centralized leadership and a well-organized bureaucracy that was able to respond effectively to the famine and maintain order within the empire. Overall, it is difficult to say how the Doji-Borja famine would have affected the Maratha Empire in this alternate scenario. However, it is possible the Marathas could have been relatively resilient to the famine due to their strong economy, effective disaster response measures, and political stability.
Thank you for watching. If you liked the video, like, share and subscribe, and stay tuned for additional content. As always, thank you for watching and have a wonderful day.